One more?
All right, so we'll call meeting to order. I only got one thing for my report, and we talked about this exact, and we're just gonna send a communication out from Mlrems, just to remind folks that if they get a communication from somebody, anybody, or nobody that suggests a change in what we should or shouldn't be doing as a region, that those things get vetted through Mlrems program agency or the state EMS office. So we're going to try to limit communications about changes from those three places. Obviously, Los Angeles and any staff that is comes out of state health, the program agency, Dr. Crispin's office, or Mlrems. So at least everybody gets a consistent message. So that's it. It's not a big deal. It's just rather than send it among ourselves, just if you don't know what to do with the communication, forward it to Ben and say, Ben, I just got this. Any suggestions on what to do with it? And we'll send that out all the fire and EMS chiefs. Any questions on that? Just a real quick review. These are the goals we set at the beginning of the year, and so we got a couple. One due in September, and we're on track for the first one, which is we have a electronic cloud storage, and we have a standardized email, and we're in the process of getting documents moved up there. So we're well on the way to getting our goal that's due in September done. Continuity guides for each position are being worked on by the chairpersons of each of the committees. And if you're not sure how to do that, you need to hook up with Donna Bailey because I think her position is the best outlined so far. So she has a real good handle on what you need to write down if you're going to have a successor. So, and the standardized directory consistent with Memphis 3 is well underway, and we'll be done with it for 90% is done.
Yes, with some trial and error that we'll talk about.
So I just want to keep those up so we all remember what we agreed we were going to try to accomplish this year as minimum. And you can tell me I can only tell you that what I know about the background checks is that the vendor we were trying to work with wasn't able to provide the service for this agency. And a lot of it revolved around not having a place to hang our shingle. We don't have a physical address, even though we have several physical addresses. So they were having a real problem with that. Tom was looking into a couple of other companies that provide that. So as soon as we get it, we'll make sure we get your background check.
Just to add to that, I believe they find one of some of the procedures there. And I said that
He did or didn't?
everybody have a chance to review last month's minutes, or these 2 months ago's minutes? Additions, changes? Motion passed.
Bill Arnold? 12 his minute.
Yes?
Any opposed? Any abstentions? He's new at this, guy. Mike?
Hopefully everybody received the financial report. I'm trying to do better about sending out earlier in the month, but based on my schedule, sometimes it's not always the easiest. But hopefully you got a chance to review it. We're on track with a new contract with the program agency for the next 5 years, right? It would be that same contract with the state and whatnot. And as far as the Google stuff goes, I was playing around a little bit today in Google Drive, trying to make sure that we understand the permissions. The biggest point of moving to a cloud storage system is so that all our documents are together, but also to avoid the situation where one person has all these documents and when they leave, they take them with them. That's what we want to try to avoid. So, I'm trying to make sure we understand that before I kind of disseminate that out, mostly through the executive committee and the chairpersons who will be responsible for documents for their committees and the minutes from their committee meetings and such. So I'm going to be working through them to try moving some of the documents that I know people already have on their laptops and PCs and whatnot to the cloud system. You may already notice if you go and log into your Mlrems Gmail and you go to your Google Documents, all the bylaws are up there and the agency policies. I just added them this afternoon. They are a view-only PDF, so you can't add to them, you can't delete them, you can't move them, or at least you shouldn't be able to. You should just be able to download them and view them as PDFs. And so that was kind of my first small try. And if you choose to, you can upload your own files there and use that. Feel free to for anything you deem appropriate. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.
Anything on the finances? On behalf of Dr. Cushman, Ben.
So Dr. Cushman asked me to give his report. If I can't hit on something, just let me know and I'll get questions and back to him. So the first item, the New York State DOH protocol training. As many of you saw, they have several webinars scheduled. Content to include updates to the selective mobilization protocol and the hemorrhage control protocol. We don't know exactly what the content is. The office got a lot of calls, hence the email from Dr. Cushman that said, we don't know exactly what this is. We don't know if and how they're going to be able to do attendance or certificates or anything else. So as soon as if we hear anything else, we'll pass it from Andy's office, we'll pass it along. Syringe EpiKit project. Since our last meeting, the commissioner approved the pilot demonstration project for syringe epinephrine kits that would substitute and provide training for syringe epi in lieu of auto injectors for participating agencies. So all of that stuff will be coming very, very shortly. It's progressing nicely, but we didn't order 60,000 syringes until we knew the state was going to sign off on it. 60,000 is the smallest order. So data dictionary and EMS charts upgrades. My apologies to Julie, who had to come out and change some charts today because some folks were using transport outcomes a little prematurely. Other than a few small hiccups, it's gone very well. We used Henrietta and Scottsville to move over to new regional commands. It's similar to what they've been doing in Livingston County all along. Obviously, though, when Livingston County did it initially, no one was using it, so we didn't know a couple of the little hiccups that we were going to find. So, please, 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 you have to let us know if you see anything in there that doesn't make sense, doesn't work, is causing your agency's duress. That is absolutely not the intention. The intention is improved data quality, and that's all. That being said, we paid for some very nice enhancements on behalf of the agencies, so that EMS charts is a venue, for example, that will give you electronically all of your New York State stroke data. We know from correspondence with the state, they're collecting data from the hospitals. It will be coming for EMS, and now through EMS charts, you can use all pre-filled fields in there to do your stroke data. You don't have to search the history of present illness to find the last seen normal and things like that. So overall, the project is going very well. And then the last thing he wanted me to talk about, updated focus on QA rubrics. So he's been testing it a few of his agencies' targeted QA rubrics, where stroke, for example, Dr. Cushman's office would provide criteria and assist you in writing the reports to pull the PCRs so that you can objectify data and go down and look at stroke care, look at STEMI care, and look at them as a whole instead of just trying to do 100% chart review. So that is progressing nicely. And then for the program manager's report, as Mike alluded to, contracts, the Mlrems contract with the state has been signed and submitted with no issues because that started the first of the month. The program agency contract is in the process of approval right now because that fiscal year is a month behind. So there shouldn't be any issues with the contract. And between myself and Mike, we've talked to everyone that we need to get the new contract numbers as far as the financial stuff and everything goes.
System ops, we got the Colorado CON, we have it, it's, this minute, we haven't seen anything back yet. The Pittsburgh Ambulance East Rochester CON, that has come to us. I went to Pinsky's office, and initially it was deemed incomplete, so it was sent back out. That has been fixed and rectified to Mr. Pinsky's satisfaction. So it is seen, at this time it is deemed complete, so we need to review at this committee, or at this level. We have copies if anybody wants to look at it, but we need to make a motion to accept the review and the completeness of the CON, so it can be sent to the state for agency.
You do have to share with the person next to you, because I couldn't fill the copy today. So just look on every other person. So whoever gets the binders, I absolutely need the binders.
Ben, I don't know if it's a time or Reg, but I just want to make some comments about this particular application.
Sure.
There's some issues, we believe, with the East Rochester Ambulance CON's validity.
The secretary just reminded me, we probably have a motion to talk about for discussion.
Sure. What the motion on the table would be to accept this, right? So then we can discuss.
Well, we have to make a motion to accept it, deny it, and then.
Right, and then we can discuss, right?
Yeah.
I make the
I
motion.
thought Jason had made the motion then.
Jason made the motion, Mark second. Okay. Thomas?
Thanks. We had some concerns about the validity of East Rochester's current CON.
Okay.
Given the fact that in 2013 the agency ceased to operate. That was June 2013. Article 30 requires that the agency surrender its CON once it ceases to operate. And that never happened. We assumed that they had turned in their CON. But apparently they did actually recertify in August of 13, which was a couple months after they ceased to operate. So we requested a copy of the application to recertify and found that a lot of the information doesn't appear to be accurate, unbeknownst to the state. And we talked to Lee Burns about this last week, and Ross was on the call as well. So, in our estimation, the CON they have currently is not valid. And so it would be, I think the council would be remiss if we chose to, act on a transfer of CON that truly isn't valid in the first place. And, I don't want to be terribly accusatory, but a lot of the information contained in the application is false. And, we talked to Director Burns and a couple others at the state about that. And, we're under the assumption that the state's going to take some action about the CON anyway. So to transfer it, knowing that there may be issues with its validity to begin with, I think might not be the most responsible thing for the council. I can go into further detail if anybody would like.
My understanding of a CON that hasn't been used in 30 days is that it's not a typical transfer. In other words, if ABC ambulance wants to transfer to XYZ ambulance and they are both operating and whatnot, no problem, and the transfer is basically, for all intents and purposes, uncontested. Anything over 30 days, as I understand it from Article 30, is that the council actually has an approval or denial option. Ross, am I close?
You're pretty much right on.
Okay.
30 cut number 4 is where you'll find it.
However, this information is a little concerning. John, did you have anything to add? This is your name's on it. You, yes.
Not John.
If you didn't know it.
Not Catherine.
I've been confusing you two for the last 20 years.
Yes, you have. We'll make that official now.
And I just want to be clear, this doesn't have anything to do with Pittsburgh, it has to do with East Rochester. So I understand that East Rochester has requested, or Pittsburgh has requested to receive a CON, but our concern is that the CON itself isn't valid to begin with.
I get that, but I
So
mean.
I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones trying to get, so they're
Sure.
culpable by association, right?
Not necessarily. I guess we were not aware of this. I have not seen the paperwork that Tom is talking about, so I can't make comment, so I don't want to make an appropriate comment. The only comment I will make, I think, is based on reading Article 30 and the policy statement, whatever, I think it may be in everybody's easiest benefit. Let it go through the process and let the state come back with their findings and their due diligence that will make it the most accurate answer than whether Tom says it, I say it, you say it, whatever. I think that may be the best way. And if it gets kicked back by the state of New York, it gets kicked back by the state of New York.
At this point in this process, the only thing the state of New York is going to do is conduct a fitness and competency review on the principles of Pittsburgh ambulance for the council's consideration. We don't make the determination of the strength council.
So I would pose the question, to the best of our knowledge, as far as New York State is concerned, that East Rochester still has a valid operating certificate.
At present, it has not been challenged yet.
Sure. But, so as far as our responsibility goes with this, we are deeming this application either be complete or not complete based on the information that is current.
Yes.
I guess the only thing that I would say is that the validity of the CON is going to be challenged, and I have the application here from 2 years ago, where the information contained in the application is clearly false. I think that the council, knowing that this is a CON that should have been surrendered, and then it was renewed, I would say in probably less than good faith, without using stronger terms, which I certainly could. I think the council would be also complicit in that if we transferred a CON that really was not valid to be found to be valid in the first place. So, I would request that we at least take some time to look at that information, and that the systems committee analyze this stuff, and I'd be happy to present all the documentation.
Okay, so which action trumps which? If they're going to oppose the CON and its validity, I'm assuming that action would have to be settled before we can even make a move on it. Is that correct or no?
We're only approving the transfer of what we believe to be valid. However,
We have somebody saying,
I have a concern that it may not be valid, so I guess, Jason, is your group willing to go back and take a look at whatever evidence or documentation
Yeah, we could definitely go back.
that Tom has and I mean, this may be something we need to involve Mrs. Burns on. I understand there's been a conversation with her already. My biggest concern is simply this. If we have a council member who has presented to us information that he believes leads it to not have a valid CON, I don't think we can just dismiss that and move forward. That's me. This is a council thing. I'm open for discussion. I don't think this has happened before, so, at least not in this region. So I'm open for where we want to go with this, Mark.
I'm just looking through the packet here, and other than the one section that I see for East Rochester's Board of Directors resolution, I don't see their CON. Am I missing something?
Jim?
Their current CON is
Is it in here?
It was in.
The operating certificate's
The
in
current
there.
operating certificate was included as part of the packet.
I missed something. Jay, you know where it is?
There.
Is
the CON that you are concerned about the one they've been operating under, or is this is the one they've been operating under for the last few years, or
They actually have been operating. They haven't.
for the last? So, but before that.
before that.
Yes, as I understand, Tom helped me out.
Yeah, I mean, historically, this is the original East Rochester Volunteer Ambulance CON which ceased to operate in June of 2013. So then an application was filed to renew that same CON in August of that year when it expired, and the information contained in the application is false.
So, and I'm sorry if everybody knows this and I just don't, but is what you're saying has false information the application for renewal or the original CON?
No, the application for renewal. So it should, in our estimation, it never should have been renewed because the information contained in the application was false.
And the renewed one has never been used since they haven't been.
It has never been used since then either. So it should have been surrendered again. After it was renewed, it should have been surrendered again. So, and it never was surrendered. So, and Article 30 does require that.
In our estimation, our
My companies, and in discussions with Director Burns, Ross was on the phone call, that, and it's black and white, clear that if an agency ceases to operate, they are required to surrender the CON. So we thought that had been done, but I guess it just never was. So, and then, when I heard about the transfer, I said, well, how can that be? Because they surrendered it and they actually happened, so.
So I guess, I would say under the system ops preliminary, we're to look at, or just whether it's complete or not, and not actually look into whether they have a valid CON. We would just, for a flag card, assume that. Maybe that should be something that we look into further, is just to ensure the validity of the CON as well.
Where are we at with the timetable? I thought we had a time.
Yeah, we're.
The current CON that's on paper, for a better term, expires at the end of August. There would be a question if you deem to us to go forward complete to the step. And I'm using some hypothetical situations that can please bear with me. Is that if we stop it here, I don't know how it goes with the time frame because your next council meeting, scheduled council meeting is not until September. That would be past the expiration date and it may affect this process. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to give misleading information, but that's a possibility. If it goes forward. And Ross, I know what you said about the FNC, the state only does the FNC, versus saying, is this CON that's on paper right now current or not, or accurate or not? I can't answer that question. I don't know if anybody at this table can answer that question right now. There may be something that needs further due diligence by the state that affects this. That's what I see. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I see.
Couple things. Clock doesn't start ticking until the council deems the application complete. At that point, then that timeline in 0606.
So we have 60 days. From today, basically. We
Right.
deemed it complete.
If it's
from
deemed
today.
complete today, 60 days to go and request the FNC from our bureau and get that back and whatever. As has been mentioned in Article 30, 3010, number 4, unlike a normal transfer, and Red sort of explained it, where both CONs are being operated. Basically, all that happens is you get a complete application, determine it complete, request a fitness and competency review, it's sent back to you. If that comes back fine, there's no reason to vote no. It's pretty much a paperwork shuffle. However, in the case where the CON being transferred has not been operated in excess of 30 days, and it's been in excess of 2 years, the regional council has to make a determination on the transferability of that CON. So it's unique and new to this region, and to a number of regions. You very rarely see this. Normally, one of two things have happened. Either the agency that ceased operation, and 99% of the time this is what happens, they surrender that certificate. For some reason that didn't happen. The department can go take it away. That could happen. There's now also the question of the validity of the application that was submitted to renew it almost 2 years ago. So, that can be challenged. The department can be asked to review that, gather evidence to support or whatever. much where that stands. Well, it's very, well, it sounds convoluted, but it's really not.
What's the timeline for the state if we request another
If you request the F&C, we have to have it back to you in 30 days.
review? No, to review the CON.
To review,
The CON.
The initial application.
check the validity, there's no timeline on that. That becomes an open investigation.
But that would be on your side, correct?
Yeah, that's on our side.
Right. So we couldn't determine whether that would be back within 60 days.
I couldn't say that it would or wouldn't. My guess is that it may be, but that may involve any information we find being have to be sent to DLA, especially if we're talking about invalidating a certificate or revoking it. We can't just do that on our own because it's the Bureau that usually has to go through.
But our clock is not starting now, right? 'Cause we're
Your
not-
clock hasn't
we're not-
started
right.
anything
So-
until you determine it complete.
Right, so we can say it's not complete, we need to have the CON confirmed. It goes to the state,
Yeah.
and then we regroup in September.
It's fine, I just
that
want to bring
right?
this
Is that-
up. I mean, I know everybody trusts laws as much as I do, but this is a specific statement in Article 30 that we're referring to as far as our responsibility with a vote versus, really in most transfers, it's just confirmation of the fact that everybody's on the same level playing field. This is a little bit different. They need the approval of our organization. So I just wanted to bring that up so you can see what the specific language is, that it's not this is not like the normal transfers. Normal transfers, we really don't have a lot to say about, nor does the state. If the F&C is complete, then it transfers.
And can you refresh my memory, back 2 years ago when Rural Metro took over, that was still
It was
operating
June
under
1st,
your,
2013.
but that was operating under the CON that you already
No, we already had a CON for the territory, so the East Rochester CON ceased to operate on June 1st, 2013.
Is appropriately surrendering their CON part of the official ceasing to operate?
If
So
they
did they
don't-
never really cease to operate?
If they don't operate for a period of in excess of 30 days, they're supposed to surrender.
Ross, are you officially telling us that they're under investigation for fraudulently submitting paperwork? Is this something that-
I haven't gotten a request to investigate that.
Good.
We haven't gotten.
So the thought that's running through my head is that I completely agree with everything Tom is saying, but our charges would be whether this application is complete or not, and not whether it's a validity application. Did Mr. Pensky bring up anything?
No, we didn't bring up anything there.
I have some concern just as to our process and what our responsibilities are, notwithstanding I understand kind of morally where we stand, but is this the right conversation?
Yeah, I think it is, Tom, Tim, because I think at this point, we have reasonable belief that there is a problem with a piece of vital statutory information here. That CON's validity is crucial to the completeness of this document. So if this document is incomplete on its face because of the questionable validity of one of those crucial pieces of information, I don't see how the council could vote on it.
Well, the only reason I question is that it's not an official act by the state, and it's only brought up by just an individual member of the council. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have validity, I'm just kind of wondering on where we stand. Are we holding up their progress? I'm just bringing it up. Curbing it is fine too.
So is it reasonable to do due diligence? My understanding is that the area that's in question here, East Rochester, is getting appropriate EMS service. Am I correct?
24 hours a day.
Okay, so for us not to take action right away is not denying anybody service. Is this correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Jason, I'm looking to you for advice. Is it reasonable to say that we want to have a confirmation from New York State that the CON that East Rochester currently holds is indeed valid and transferable? All we have to do is send them a letter and say, confirm it. If they send us a letter back that says they have a valid CON, then We have, the state says they have a valid CON, right?
Except for the fact that it hasn't been operated in 30 days.
That's true.
And we know that, and maybe the state doesn't. So.
Right. Well, whatever action is taken in the background, if someone decides to take action that says their CON's not valid, is beyond this council. But you brought a concern forward. I don't think ignoring it is appropriate, my opinion. And simply having the state validate it, so then we have a complete package. And then we vote on it, and there's no question. The state health department has confirmed that the CON is appropriate.
I guess, Ross, from your perspective, if no one formally submits a complaint, is the state just going to say, yes, in our records, they have a valid CON until the end of August?
If you were to call me today on the phone and ask me, does East Rochester Volunteer Ambulance Corps Inc. have a valid CON, I would tell you it's valid until August 31st of this year. Now, if somebody was to submit information that would put the validity of that in question, then we would have to look into it.
And that's your intention to do that?
Yes. But I foiled their application, just received it today. I asked for it Wednesday, got it today. Our next step is going to be to submit the document that refutes the information in their
You
application.
got a FOIA request back in 5 days?
Yeah,
Holy, how did you do that?
we're quick. Or the DOH is efficient, might I say.
That's incredible.
So,
That's good work. These will take forever.
So, yeah, I mean, I just received this, I don't know, this afternoon. So, our next step is just to compile the rest of the documentation to send in to DOH. So, I mean, and it's information that on its face is just patently false. So, I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the middle of that. Nor is this council.
No, I assume not. That's why I wanted to bring it and say, maybe we'll just all save ourselves some trouble.
Ross, can I ask a question about the last SEMSCO? So didn't one of the other councils kind of get in trouble for taking stuff that was not outlined in 0606 and trying to consider that in a CON? The Monroe ambulance expanding into Orleans County, didn't they get in trouble for, like, kind of embarrassed for that? That's the only thing. So, like, I go to, so,
Well,
they
one
have,
thing you
like,
need to understand that 0606 is policy, right? It's not regulation and it's
Right,
not statute.
right.
I didn't watch the last SEMSCO and I
Yeah.
don't remember exactly the details of what went on there.
The only reason I ask is it seemed like it was very embarrassing for our neighbors in one of the western regions where they had a CON they wanted to contest. And instead of deeming the application complete based on 0606,
Right.
they kept giving them criteria. One of them was, you might remember they asked our regional council to say that Monroe Ambulance's operation in our region wouldn't be influenced. And we said, no, we won't and can't do that. That's not in our purview. So just, I don't know, from sitting at that,
I see what
watching
you're
that last thing.
You're using 0606 as the checklist to deem it complete.
Right, because all my
Okay,
emails with
yeah.
Rich Brandt and everybody
Right,
else
right,
are making
right.
sure with all of, because that's all I know is,
Yes.
I'm the guy that has to send the emails back and forth to Dana and all these people, and they correct me about missing periods and hash marks and everything else. So,
Yeah.
that's all. I just, when Jason and I looked at this and handed it to Brad, it was about 0606. And is the application complete?
That's typically the
And I know
standard
that's-
that you use
Yeah.
to.
So,
But wasn't he operating from the standpoint of the documents he was being provided with were valid, and where you're now calling into question the validity of the documents that you
sure.
viewed, is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely that's true. I just thought it was important to point that one out.
I think, I understand what you're saying, but I think the
Yeah.
situations are, I know the situation, because I know the situation. with
Right,
the
right.
rest of you.
So,
Very different. Yeah, very different.
Just a quick question. If this expires in August before our next meeting, well, I missed something about how the 60 days starts when it's will it be too late? Because it will be, if we don't make a decision now, that CON will be
It only starts at the school.
expired.
It starts,
The
the
underlying
clock starts
CON.
when it's deemed complete by this body. However, the application's been filed. There's some question on whether the State Administrative Procedure Act applies here, and that that would have to be the lawyers to figure out the argument. There's case law. Because the filing was made prior to the expiration, it's much like if you take your EMT exam, you expire it 3 days after you take your exam, you're still valid until you get your results, one way or the other. That's a potential here. So that expiration date may be a moot point.
My concern was just that if we vote one way, we may be
Right.
voting to do something we didn't want to do,
Right.
thinking we were putting it off and would have an opportunity in the future to make an actual decision. That's all.
What would the best thing be for Jason to withdraw his motion, and we say the CON has to be validated, and then he can bring forth that motion at a later meeting? So that doesn't start the clock one way or other, because we're not voting, because we don't feel we have all the information we need.
Jim?
Sort of piggyback on Dr. Murray's comment, if Jason retracts the original motion, to make a new motion to deem it complete pending verification from the Department of Health on the East Rochester seal. I don't know how that affects 0606 with the 60-day window, but we're saying this as long as we get this verification, one way or the other, based on that verification, goes forward, or it stops right then and there.
We have no guarantee from the state that they can do a CON review in 60 days, so is that right?
Yeah, I can't.
Can we, I thought we could only vote on it if it was considered complete.
I'm sorry, 0606 doesn't say it has to be a council vote. When Tom and I talked this morning, when he talked to Lee Burns, because of the contention, she wanted the completeness of the application to be done with this body. Normally, we don't vote on, if they're transferred, we don't vote on them until they come back and we haven't seen them done. So if this was any other CON transfer, I would have already, as soon as I got to go back to the lawyer, I would have sent it to myself today now. So this one is a little odd because she told Tom that she wanted a
So why don't we send it to the FTC? If in the meantime, something happens to stall it, that's not our problem. I mean, if there's action going to be taken legally,
No, you just need to make a determination if the application's complete.
Right. I think the issue is that it's an F&C on the receiver of the CON. So the CON itself doesn't get looked at in an F&C process. So the application, at least in my view, can't be complete if all the documentation is not valid. So the F&C is only going to be done in Pittsburgh. It has nothing to do with the CON itself. So once it goes to the state, they're going to find Pittsburgh ambulance fit and competent, I'm sure. That has nothing to do with the CON itself. It's not transferable.
The other thing that you told me on the phone, and I did get an email from Rich Brandt as well, was the comment that you just had on the screen that said that when we do have our vote after the FTC, that has to be part of the conversation.
So we still have to vote on this, on the actual transfer,
Yeah.
once everything's done.
yeah,
Typically, it would not be except in this situation.
My concern right now is if we go and we say, we request from the state a review of validity, if, depending on when we send it in and if when they send their complaint in, the times might not jive up, and essentially we could send it in today. I'm not saying it's going to happen after business hours, but the state can receive it, say yes on our files, it shows that it's complete, and then 10 days later they can get, the complaint or the contestation, and they've already sent us the approval letter saying that yes, they have a valid COI based on the information. Right. Correct.
At the end of the day, that's like, it'll result in the same thing. Because if they deem that they didn't have a valid CON, then there's nothing to transfer, and therefore they won't have a CON in that area. So, I mean.
Now, does that logic follow through then, if, say, we did approve it, that approved the transfer, and then Metro challenges the CON, goes away anyway, right?
It does.
So the result is the
Work
same.
around a sequence, there's normally a wait for the FNC, right?
Right. But you're saying the FNC's on Pittsburgh, not on East Rochester.
This is true.
So it's not, it doesn't matter.
Well, you can't vote on the transfer until you receive the FNC anyway.
So,
The problem is that the FNC won't look at the CON itself. It's a flawed process.
Can we have, Jason, your group, along with saying wait for the FNC, send a letter to the health department and say, a question was brought up about the validity of the CON.
But in the meantime, it's going to expire before we meet again.
What's that?
It's going to expire before we meet again, so where does that leave it?
Well, that's what I said, I think SAPA may apply in that case. Even though it's not been deemed complete yet, it's still been filed.
It would have happened either way, because we wouldn't have seen this until September anyway. So,
So you need to withdraw.
I mean, I think the application is filed timely, so that really shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, that's fine. Are you with that, Jason? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll send them. That's not a problem.
All right, we have a lawyer that says, that review the application says it's complete. We have information from somebody, and just in all fairness, you do have a potential conflict, but you have documentation that you believe that suggests that this happened, or that their CON is inappropriate, and so we say that the application is complete, however, this has been brought up, and we're requesting the state to review the CON to make sure it's complete, and we'll vote on it until we have the FNC and whatever response they have. If they send a letter back saying a CON, we're done. I mean, that's,
No, and just to clarify, I mean, we made a verbal complaint to the Director of the Department of Health. She recommended that we request the documentation, which we did through a FOIL request, which I received today, and she recommended that our next steps be to file a formal complaint with supporting documentation, which is what we're going to do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's fine.
I mean, we just found out a few days ago that the request to transfer had been made because I hadn't heard about it until then. So, I mean, it's bad timing, I guess. But the CON hasn't been operated in 2 years anyway, so.
okay. Jason, you want to withdraw the...
Yeah, it's in the draft. Withdraw the motion. So we can vote on the vacancy, or vote on completeness of the district boundary arrangements. See you later.
I guess I have a question right now because I don't understand how they're operated. Is it when they no longer could perform?
They're not operating.
I understand that. But 2 years ago, when they couldn't meet, they couldn't perform anymore. The East Rochester Voluntary Ambulance Incorporated. Did the village come forth and say we need help, and the village RFP'd out the village? So you're operating as a contract for the village of East Rochester.
Correct.
So I understand that.
Yep.
So now
Without
all of a
CON.
sudden, out of the clear blue sky, the volunteer organization who's failed to operate in 2 years wants to suddenly transfer their CON that they have to another agency so they could have CON for the village of East Rochester, right?
Right.
Okay, so I don't see where this is a no-brainer. They haven't operated in 30 days. I don't understand why we're just saying no. I guess I don't understand why we're fighting this. They haven't operated.
It's a point of order, we just can't. We
No, I understand that, but I don't.
We can definitely vote no, but this, I mean, that, we don't have the FNC. Typically, you don't vote until you have the FNC.
Okay.
The roadblocks seem to come in when there was some discussion at the upper levels of the state that said we need to confirm that it was valid or complete application, correct me if I'm wrong. And so, we're saying it's complete, we're sending it on to the state with the question of, is the CON that currently is held by East Rochester valid? We may very well get a letter back that says the FTC is complete, Pittsburgh's in great shape, we all know that Pittsburgh's a well-run organization and they're financially sound. Their FTC is going to be fine, that's a no-brainer. And if the letter's crossed in the mail, and we get a letter back from the state that says it's valid CON, we vote out next meeting. Is that simple? Yes. Whatever happens in the background is, happens. We may very well in that time frame get a letter from the state that says, this is what we know, don't do this, do this. I wish we could control the wheels at the health department, but we can't. Yep.
Just so I'm clear, I'm kind of confused, so bear with me. You're going to ask for verification from, you're asking for more information from the state first, correct?
Yes.
But Ross, you made a statement that the application has been brought forth, so that plays into that 60-day window.
No. 60-day clock doesn't start until it's deemed complete, which, from what I'm gathering, that's what's going to happen. It'll be deemed complete. The FNC, that's when the 60-day clock starts.
We don't know how long or how little it takes for the state to give an answer of one side or the other, valid or not valid.
It would be remiss of me to put a timeline on that, because I may not be doing that.
Okay. If we hit a crystal ball, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. With that being said, what about, since there is not a motion that the application is complete, depending on the Department of Health's review and answer back to the regional council, how does that play into effect to start the 60-day window, because we have not said we move forward with the FNC? I guess we're going to have questions. So because of the expiration, I know you said about the state administrative thing, I just want to make sure there's not like a limbo thing that comes back and creates a headache. I'm trying to get rid of headaches.
As I understand it, normally the procedure for this council is that the systems committee reviews it, Pinsky reviews it on their behalf. And if he says it's complete, they deem it complete. The council here normally doesn't vote on that completeness, they just forward it on. So there doesn't have to be necessarily a council vote. They're going to send a letter, and correct me, stop me if I'm getting this wrong. They will send a letter deeming it complete, requesting the FNC, but also bringing into question the validity of the.
All right, so it's going to be multi-part letter.
Yes. Am I correct?
Yep. Thank you for following along.
We're not doing it.
Sorry.
What's it?
We're not doing it.
Yeah, we have, the lawyer is indeed that complete. We're just getting verification by information we've been brought that the CON may not be valid. The state says it's valid, we have to assume it's valid. We don't have any choice. They're the ones that determine the CONs are valid. So we're going to ask that question. And then when it comes back, when we meet again, it will be right at that 60-day window. We'll have to determine if we get the letter back. If we don't, we'll have to make a decision at that point.
We're not deeming it complete because we're calling into question the validity of the CON. So we're not saying it's complete.
We don't have that information for sure, though.
But there was, I mean, we don't. Here's the problem. We rely on a lawyer to review that.
Yeah, but we have new information that he did not have available to him.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I didn't think we were deeming it complete because we have new information that the CON is potentially not valid on space. So therefore, it's not complete.
Technically, we're not doing it.
Right.
Well, we don't.
Yes, for transfer.
But I thought the
We already.
health department was requesting that we.
No, I was thinking, in the conversation that Tom talked to Lee, I did not talk to her. So she had mentioned that.
Yeah, and Russ was on the call as
It was,
well, so.
what Lee spoke to was that when it comes time to vote on the actual transfer, not the deeming of complete, that the council has another piece to consider, and actually has to approve the transferability of it. Unlike the normal transfer where everybody's playing nice in the sandbox and everybody's working, both operating, and the F&C is good on the receiver, the council's vote is a mere formality. They're voting that the agency receiving the CON is a fit and competent, not if the CON is actually transferable. In this case, you have to decide if it's actually transferable because of the lack of operation in excess of 30 days.
And we would not ordinarily do that until the September meeting.
Which will address in the letter set.
Guess I don't understand.
So, I'll send a letter to the state. And we'll wait till September.
Tom, you willing to share any information you have with the council?
Absolutely, no, and I was just going to ask, and I had asked before, but maybe now more than ever, I'd really like to be a part of the systems committee.
Absolutely.
And if you just let me know when the next meeting is, I'll come and be happy to provide all the documentation involved, the same stuff that we're providing to the director, so.
Well, that's fine. And then when we get that, if the state hasn't told us the CON is or isn't good, at that point, we're going to make a decision.
And I would think that our attorney would be able to take a look at that and say, yeah, this doesn't make sense, how can it be complete if the CON isn't valid, so. I mean, maybe I'm jumping to a reasonable conclusion, but.
But even if you turn it down, it's still be a.
Of course, I mean, it can always go to state council, I mean, there's a long process that can be followed either way.
You're saying it doesn't matter that our next meeting is greater than 60 days?
Pretty close to 60 days, usually we meet every week.
Yeah, there's more. That's okay.
So we have to be able to. If we deem it complete, we have to go out within 60 days.
Yes.
So give it a day before you send it in.
What's that?
So give it a day before you send it in.
Figure out when 60 days is, then I'll send it out that
No,
day.
September 21st is the next meeting, so we'll wait till tomorrow. Set.
Any other discussion on this?
I was just doing it in my head.
30 days in September, April.
Can you put in the letter, to expect information from rural Metro with regards to their specific concerns with the validity of the CON? Say we expect them to, we are doing all this based on concerns brought forward by a specific group, and we are expecting them to submit their grievances.
Any G?
Oh, geez.
Wait.
Oh, wait, okay. First order of business is something we were remiss in doing last meeting. Apologies again to Mr. Horowitz and I can see Lieutenant Nolte here, but election of members to council. BLS First Response Agency, Lieutenant Mick Nolte from Rochester Fire, and EMS Corps Sponsor Agency, Mr. Horowitz. Only 2 applicants, only 2 positions to be filled. I'd like to entertain a motion for the secretary to cast 1 vote on behalf of council to elect both members to council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Frost. We do have a candidate for 3rd Battalion Transport. Mr. Tom Tracy has expressed interest. I'm waiting for some supporting documentation for him in the form of a letter from Penfield Ambulance to support that application. Dr. Aaron Muto has been appointed by Rochester General as their hospital representative. Also, we're waiting for some paperwork to get that squared away, and we will essentially address that matter at REMAC as well. It's a matter of our bylaws revision and the fact that when we revised the REMAC bylaws, we basically put in a section of the bylaws that said follow the council bylaws. And so the council bylaws require a letter of intent to be filed with the council 10 business days prior to, and at this point, we just need a letter of intent. And it's kind of a formality that we've hung our hat on in the past with some other applications, so in order to remain consistent and be fair to those folks in the past who have been hung on that same hook, we got to abide by that ruling. So there has been, however, some interest in looking at one aspect of this with respect specifically to the hospital appointees. I think that's something when NEG reviewed the bylaws for REMAC, we didn't really consider. So I will be returning that back to committee with the intent of looking at a bylaws revision specifically for our hospital partners, so that we can maybe streamline that process. For the time being, we're going to stick with that and ask Dr. Needle for the letter of intent. So, and we'll take care of that. Thank you.
Has everyone met Dr. Mueller?
Thank you. And welcome. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
My recollection, you were a paramedic program a few years ago.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
So it's you, probably.
I don't know who thinks they're old right now, me or you?
You're the one with the 4-digit EMT numbers.
What's that?
I said you're the one with the 4-digit EMT numbers. So advertising policy, do a little background on this for members who haven't been in on the conversation. Back at the May launch of EMS Week, we had a request of Donna from Peer to look at allowing a vendor to offer services. In this case, I believe it was someone offering discounted services to EMS providers for EMS Week, and how we might be able to promote that to our members. That evolved into a discussion of how we might discover a policy or establish a policy with regard to outside vendors advertising for any services, either through the website or at council-sponsored events. We specifically looked at the potential for doing that on the website, since that's our most public edifice, if you will. There was a review of some state regulations done by George Lester, who's not able to be with us today. He's on vacation. But George did a nice job finding some information that would tend to feel that we did not have the ability to do that because we are a quasi-state agency. We are state-funded, we are state organized, and our members and officers are indemnified by the state. And I speak now as Mr. Pinsky, who got back to me just today. Our attorney says that that opinion is correct. So based on Mr. Pinsky's opinion and the opinion of the NEG, we believe we cannot do that. So that's kind of a moot. The bylaws amendment was sent out to members. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review that. In accordance with the bylaws amendment section, they have made formal notice to the membership that we were preparing to amend the bylaws for the attendance section, vote on which will take place at the September meeting. With the permission of the chair, I'd like to open discussion on the matter of the amendment, if there is any. Any questions? I did have a letter of support from Dr. Cushman and Mr. Glessner. Obviously, they wouldn't be here today, so just to mention the fact both of them felt that the changes were appropriate. If there's no other comments? Okay, so that being said, at the September meeting, we will vote on that amendment by a 2/3 majority of the membership. There has been some discussion about teleconferencing. We are going to create a bit of a subgroup within NEG. Ben Sensenbach, myself, and George Glessner will be working on that. The idea behind that being, at first here, to look at the potential of setting up a teleconferencing site in Livingston County. So Karen would like to engage you in that as well, if you may. And the idea being that maybe we can get some more folks from Livingston County either involved in the process. As we know, we've had some difficulty in the past filling seats, and I suspect maybe some of that is because people don't want to make the drive to Rochester from Dansville 4 times a year. But the other thing also is to allow the public more access, to allow people the potential for actually attend the meeting through video means. So that's something that we're looking into. Ben, George, and I, and Karen, if you will, we'll start working with you. And the final thing is we're working on our continued project, Code of Ethics, Media Policy, Code of Conduct. Bill Arnold. There you go. Hi, Bill. Bill's working on some final revisions to the draft document that we've approved in committee. we should have that ready for the September meeting for at least a discussion, if not vote. My hope is to have it ready for vote. And that is all for me.
Very well. Anything from Mark?
Yeah, Pierre. Team talked about developing a mission and vision for our team because a lot of people, when they look at Pierre, they say, what the heck is that? So we figured we'd try to develop something that would give people a better idea of what we do. And Jeremy had asked us to discuss if we could do anything on our website to recognize providers, community, or other promote all that Pierre is doing. We had a discussion about that. We thought about maybe doing a feature section on the website for a provider of the month, which would also kind of lead to maybe more applicants for the awards in the following year. We're looking, actually, everybody should have received, all the agency leaders should have received a survey that we're trying to determine what kind of things that agencies do for communities, how agencies award their people, trying to get a better handle on what people are doing. And hopefully, as an outcome of that, then we're going to develop another survey that's going to go out to the hospitals and that, so we can try to get a better response for our applications for our awards the following year. We have also gone so far as to, a lot of the members on the committee are willing to actually go to the agencies and possibly offer assistance in writing those awards. So we'd like to really get people used to recognizing their providers. And if anybody has any ideas, we would be more than welcome to receive them.
All right. Great work. Thank you. Anything for that?
Well, we didn't meet in July, but one thing we're talking about, especially with the stuff coming down from the state about PLS protocol updates, is how to incorporate those into the CIU, the instructor update for CLIs and CICs, which is more, the purview of the state staff, but they're on our committee, some of them who do the CIUs. So we've heard a lot of people who are not CLIs anymore because they can't commit to the CIU as it is. So we're looking to make kind of a more accessible CIU so that we can keep our CLIs, which may be, offering it not just on a Saturday all day in the summer, maybe breaking it up or doing a hybrid, part online, and then a shorter class in person. If you have any suggestions on that, let me know, because we are losing CLIs too fast. And I think that is part of the reason why. And then we also talked about a BLS preceptor program for the region, and we're going to attach that document to the minutes for the agenda for this meeting. It's just a rough outline because we wanted to see if agencies are interested in having us develop one, and that might be what one could look like. So if you have any comments on that, also let me know. We don't want to obviously create something that agencies don't have a use for. But so far the feedback has been positive, and it sounds like there's a need. So that's all.
Can I just ask about the BLS preceptor program? Is it envisioned that it would be similar to the ALS program in that in order to train an EMT, you have to be credentialed by the region, that sort of thing?
I'll answer yes and no. Yeah, so it would be similar in terms of, at least right now, how the ALS preceptor program looks like. However, in terms of would it be mandated by the region, that's not really where we were looking to go. I guess it's a possibility, but at least in my discussions with Jeremy or Dr. Cushman and the program agency staff, that's not the intent. The intent is just to provide an education for BLS preceptors because there's a need for it, not to force anything on agencies.
That sounds great.
Anything else for us? Dr. Murray?
Hello. All right. From the Patient Safety Subcommittee, previously the QA Committee, we had a number of open seats for positions, and I'm excited to report that we've now filled them. So Dr. Bruce Thompson will be coming on representing Unity, Dr. Aaron Muto representing Rochester General, and Dr. Aaron Fountain representing Livingston County will be coming on board. All right. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anything to look good, Doctor? Karen? Your name's coming up.
Okay, should I wait for it? Wait for it? There it is. Livingston County is in the midst of a communications upgrade for our 911 system. An RFP went out and a bid was just awarded to Motorola. All of Livingston County Fire and EMS is going to migrate to VHF. The proposal by Motorola is a simulcast microwave-based system that they promise that it will enable us and afford us interoperability with UHF, VHF, and 700 and 800. We haven't seen all of the equipment yet, so the plan is they did a pretty comprehensive subscriber inventory as part of this grant application, and the plan is to purchase mobiles, portables, bases for all agencies that need them. And then Dr. Farney, as you just heard from Dr. Murray, is Livingston County's new medical director. He is not foreign to our region, was a volunteer with Brighton Ambulance and West Brighton Fire. Thank you. Went away for a little while, has been down in Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing an EMS fellowship, and has already started working with Livingston County. He will be the medical provider for the Livingston County EMS agency and will provide medical coverage for any BLS or BLSFR agencies in the county that need it. So we're happy to have him on board.
Good. Thank you for Karen. Tim?
It's all up there. We welcome 4 new deputy EMS coordinators that are assigned to special operations. Their names are up there. Working on municipal CON ALSFR for Monroe County as it relates to the EMS special operations. We have the Harris digital radios out in each of the battalions. These are trumped to the new digital system. All I'm asking for is that people get an opportunity to use them, is to fill out a brief survey that we gave them so we can see where some of our problems lie. And then lastly, Dan DeSelva, our 4th Battalion Coordinator, will be coordinating the EMS response for the airport drill in September. It's an FAA requirement. It's going to be really driven around transport, treatment, patient tracking, and triage. Those are really the main things. Right now, no airline has stepped forward to participate. So we may be doing it over here out back. The airlines don't like to participate because then somebody shoots through the fence and gets the name of the airline and shows all these people running around with people laying on the ground. And it doesn't work out to be good PR for them, so they kind of opt out. That's it for me, unless there are any questions.
Would you want to talk about something?
No, we don't have. All right.
From the state, most of you have already heard everything about the BLS updates and SWAM mobilization of energy and everything else, so I won't go over that again. You've all been issued tonight the policy statement that came out regarding permanent convictions for you guys to read and peruse. And then community care and medicine, if anybody's been up on that, the legislature on that has moved forward. It did pass the legislative session. Now it goes to the Senate, which won't be probably until next year. But we do have backing from hospitals and physicians. Right now, the only ones that are really contentious on board as well. For passing the Senate. That's about it.
All right, any Jason? Any new business? All right, next meeting, September 21st, downtown Livingston County. Campus Court. All right, thank you. Sorry, I ran over.
Did you just-
Hot people.